It's too bad you can't enjoy such a great movie, though.
I guess I'm just one of those people who can't enjoy spy flicks.
Hello, I am Dr. Rorschach, and lately I have been in a bit of a Metal Gear kick. I'm not playing through any of the games right now, but I kind of go through phases where I like to watch a lot of Metal Gear content and have conversations with other people about it. Compared to other game communities that I consider myself a part of, I think Metal Gear has a really great community overall. Opinions on specific topics definitely fluctuate in the community, but I don't feel toxicity in this community like I do in other gaming communities I'm a part of, like the Zelda community. Like a lot of people, I'm currently really enjoying the Last of Us series on HBO. It's been an incredible adaptation, and it's worth saying that this isn't the adaptation that broke the video game adaptation curse like some sources are claiming it to be, but this adaptation of a narrative-heavy game has really been making me think about my favorite narrative-heavy game series, Metal Gear. A Metal Gear movie has been trying to be made ever since 2006, when Kojima said a movie was in development, which is really weird to think about since Metal Gear 4 wasn't even out at that time. Not much was said about the announcement until 2012, when it was announced that the movie was back in production with Marvel's Avi Arad producing it, and I do just want to say that I thank God every day that the man who ruined Spider-Man 3 and is proud of movies like Venom 2 and Morbius didn't end up making a Metal Gear movie. But fast forward to recent news, in 2020 it was announced that Jordan Vogt Roberts, most known for directing Kong Skull Island, will be directing the Metal Gear movie, and Oscar Isaac will actually be starring in it. Most media outlets assumed that Oscar was going to be cast as Solid Snake, but it's never been confirmed if that's the Snake he is playing, or if he's playing Big Boss, or even both of them. But for the past 2 years, we've kind of been sitting in the dark and haven't heard anything else about this movie. Isaac has made a few comments on the film, but there's been no real updates from the director or from the studio on the film's production.
Can you give us any update on Solid Snake and the preparation going on for that?
We're searching. We're searching like Solid Snake. We're climbing through air ducts. We're looking for the story.
In the film world, this is what we call production hell, and it happens to more video game movie adaptations that are announced than film adaptations that are actually released. Big franchises like Minecraft, Gears of War, Call of Duty, Portal, and even BioShock have all had movies announced for them years ago, and nothing has come of them as of yet. And similar to the case of Metal Gear, some announced adaptations have even announced actors for the leading characters, such as Duke Nukem adaptation had John Cena announced for the lead, but it hasn't made any progress in the past few years. So just because we have a casting for a Metal Gear movie doesn't mean you should have any confidence that this film is ever going to be made. So let's talk about video game adaptation formula right now, because within the past few years, we have really seen what works and what doesn't work for video game adaptations into movies. Adapting a narrative-heavy video game has worked in two ways recently. The first is taking the world of a video game and creating your own interesting story. We've seen this work very well for Arcane and Cyberpunk and those animated Netflix series.
Atom Smasher, hurry! Go on, kill the boy! Who the fuck are you?
The second route is just adapting the story of the video game, but cutting out what doesn't translate over and then fleshing out parts of the story that really need it for live action. This is what made The Last of Us adaptation incredible so far, such as the show taking time to flesh out the backstory of characters like Bill or Henry. But when it comes to adapting video games to movies, Metal Gear just feels like it's unadaptable, at least for a movie. The first Metal Gear game has 4 hours of cutscenes and codec calls alone. That's not even counting the gameplay, which would leave 0 time for stealth and action scenes in a movie. But more importantly here, every Metal Gear game has a lot of unexplained elements to the story. Playing the first Metal Gear Solid game, you don't understand the nanomachines, you don't understand why Solid Snake and Liquid Snake are clones of Big Boss, you don't understand why people like Psycho Mantis have the powers that they do. You just go along with it after every game, and after every game you just have more questions than answers. But this style of storytelling works in gaming because it's interactive and you can look past your confusion as long as the game is fun, because all the Metal Gear games are very fun to play. While with multiple movies, this could possibly translate, but we have to remember that film adaptations are for general audiences, not the core fans. If the general audience finds the movie confusing, they're probably not coming back to see the next one. Unless you heavily butcher the game's story here, there's just no clean way to adapt the game's story into a movie. The movie will also find itself in a tough position of where do we want to start this story? Do we want to start with the original MSX games that only the hardcore fans know about? Do we start at the Metal Gear Solid 1 because it's the most iconic, but then we kind of have to explain what's happened before in the MSX games? Or do we start in chronological order, beginning with Metal Gear Solid 3, but then confuse casual fans why this isn't a modern spy movie? There's a lot of different routes here, but they all have pros and cons. There's just no clean route to any of this. So can Metal Gear be adapted to anything? Yes, I actually think so. A TV series would work so much better than a movie, and that's what I'm personally hoping for. A lot of people forget that The Last of Us was trying to be made into a movie years before they decided to make the HBO series. The show has had a positive reception from critics, casual audience members who haven't played the games, and fans of the game. But even in a TV show format, Metal Gear will be 10 times harder to adapt than something like The Last of Us. An animated series is also a feasible option and could give it the best adaptation out of all the options, but I just don't really see the point in an animated series because at that point you might as well just watch some of the game's cutscenes. So with all of this in mind, I just really don't think a Metal Gear movie is going to ever happen. I do think we will eventually get more Metal Gear content in some form, but by this point a movie seems far less likely than original Metal Gear remakes, and most fans consider that to be just a pipe dream. Even though I don't think it will happen, I will say that the thought of seeing parts of this game in live action is very fun to think about. Just the thought of seeing Psycho Mantis scenes in a movie and what they could do with something like that, it's very fun to imagine.
Psycho Mantis.
But what do you guys think about the Metal Gear movie? Do you think this movie will ever happen? Or how would you adapt the Metal Gear media to a franchise outside of video games? Feel free to let me know down in the comments. As usual, I am Dr. Rorschach, and thank you so much for watching.